what just happened here is more than a story. It's a powerful lesson in respect and connection. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone's arrogance turned into a life-changing experience? Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you were moved by this incredible journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tomorrow at this exact time, we've got another unforgettable story that will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss it. See you in the next one. A tourist ignored the warnings, then the horse struck back. The sun hung high over London, casting a golden glow over the historic Horse Guards parade. The air buzzed with excitement as tourists gathered, cameras flashing, eager to witness the iconic changing of the guard ceremony. Families, couples, and travelers from all over the world filled the square, their voices blending into a low hum of anticipation. Among them was Ryan Mitchell, a 35-year-old from Dallas, Texas. Tall, broad-shouldered, and always the loudest in the room, Ryan had a habit of treating every situation like a joke. Rules? He didn't care much for them. Boundaries? He pushed them just to see how far they would bend. And today, standing amidst the sea of tourists, he felt the perfect opportunity to stir up some fun. His eyes landed on Titan, a majestic black stallion, standing tall and proud beside Officer Jack Reynolds, one of the elite Royal Guards. Titan's gleaming coat shimmered in the sunlight, his muscular frame exuding power. He was more than just a horse. He was a symbol of discipline, tradition, and honor. But to Ryan, he was just another photo opportunity. A smirk tugged at Ryan's lips as he nudged his friend. "Come on, man. These guys take themselves way too seriously," he joked. "Let's see if I can get a reaction." Ignoring the clear warning signs, he stepped forward, weaving through the crowd until he was just a few feet away from Titan. The horse stood perfectly still, his ears flicking slightly at the movement. Officer Reynolds, dressed in his crisp blue uniform with gold buttons, remained motionless, his eyes fixed forward in unwavering discipline. Ryan chuckled, waving a hand near the officer's face. "Hey man, you alive in there?" No response. The crowd shifted uneasily, a few murmurs of disapproval rippling through the onlookers. But Ryan wasn't done. He reached out toward Titan's bridle, grinning. "Let's see if this guy is as stiff as his rider." A sharp command cut through the air. "Sir, step back." Officer Reynolds' voice was firm, unwavering, a warning, a final chance for Ryan to walk away. But it was too late. Titan reacted instantly. His powerful 400-pound frame, surging upward as he reared onto his hind legs, his massive hooves slicing through the air. The crowd gasped in shock. Ryan stumbled backward, his laughter gone in an instant. Ryan's stomach dropped as Titan reared up, his massive 1,400-pound frame towering over him. The powerful stallion's front hooves slashed through the air, his dark mane whipping in the sunlight. The crowd screamed, gasps and shouts echoing through the parade grounds. Ryan stumbled backward, his boots scraping against the cobblestones as he struggled to regain his balance. He hadn't expected this. He thought he'd get a laugh, maybe a few chuckles from the crowd, but now he was the one panicking. Titan's hooves crashed back down, his nostrils flaring, his deep brown eyes locked onto Ryan with an intensity that made his chest tighten. There was no rage in the horse's gaze, no wild aggression. Instead, there was something even more unsettling, a quiet demand for respect. "What the hell?" Ryan muttered, his voice shaking as he dusted himself off. He glanced at the stunned faces around him, hoping for some reassuring laughter, but there was none. The crowd wasn't amused. They were staring, not at him, but at Officer Jack Reynolds, who had dismounted in one swift motion. His polished boots hit the ground with purpose as he strode toward Ryan, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of his ceremonial hat. "Sir, step away from the horse. Now." His voice was calm, controlled, but there was no mistaking the authority behind it. Ryan put up his hands, forcing a weak laugh. "Hey, relax, man. I was just having a little fun." Officer Reynolds' eyes hardened. "That was not fun. That was reckless." He took another step closer, his posture rigid with discipline. "You could have been seriously injured. And worse, you could have caused harm to others." Ryan's smirk wavered. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. A few people shook their heads in disapproval. A mother pulled her child closer. The tourists, who had once been eager for pictures, now watched in tense silence, waiting to see what would happen next. Ryan turned to Titan, who still stood tall, his muscles coiled with controlled power. For the first time, Ryan didn't just see a horse in uniform. He saw a living, breathing creature that had been trained to protect, to serve, to uphold centuries of tradition. And for the first time in a long time, Ryan felt something unfamiliar creep into his chest. Shame. The crowd around Ryan began to shift, murmurs turning into hushed whispers. Some tourists snapped photos, while others simply stood in stunned silence. He could still feel Titan's piercing gaze locked onto him, not in anger, but with a kind of unspoken authority that made his stomach twist. Officer Jack Reynolds stood tall, his uniform pristine despite the chaos that had just unfolded. His expression remained unreadable, but there was no mistaking the disapproval in his eyes. "These animals," he said, voice steady but firm, "are not props for your entertainment. They are highly trained members of the Royal Guard, and they deserve to be treated with respect." Ryan scoffed, trying to regain his usual swagger. He let out a nervous chuckle, brushing dust from his jeans. "Come on, man. It's just a horse. No harm done, right?" Officer Reynolds' jaw tightened. "No harm done?" His voice rose slightly, the edge in his tone unmistakable. "Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? Titan could have seriously injured you, or someone else in this crowd." Ryan felt heat rise in his face as he looked around. The laughter he had been hoping for never came. Instead, he saw nothing but disapproval and unease. A few steps away, an elderly man shook his head. A group of children clutched their parents' hands a little tighter. Titan let out a slow, his massive chest rising and falling with steady control. He hadn't bolted. He hadn't lashed out. He had reacted with the same discipline and restraint as his rider. And that's what made Ryan uncomfortable. For years, he had relied on loud jokes and reckless behavior to get attention. He'd spent his life making people laugh, pushing boundaries just to see how far he could go. But standing here now, facing the silent judgment of a 1,000-pound horse, he realized just how small he felt. He should have walked away. He should have shrugged it off, cracked another joke, and disappeared into the crowd. But he didn't. Instead, Ryan lingered, watching as Officer Reynolds turned back to Titan, murmuring soft words as he gently stroked the horse's neck. The same hands that had been firm and commanding just moments ago now moved with care and respect, as if communicating with the animal in a way that Ryan couldn't begin to understand. Ryan swallowed hard, a strange weight settling in his chest. He wasn't sure why, but for the first time in his life, he wanted to understand. The rest of the crowd began to disperse, the excitement of the moment fading into the usual hum of tourist chatter. But Ryan couldn't move. Something about the way Officer Reynolds interacted with Titan kept him rooted in place. He watched as the disciplined guardsman ran a gloved hand over the horse's sleek black coat, his voice low and calm. Titan responded instantly, his ears flicking forward, his stance shifting slightly, as if to acknowledge the reassurance. It was trust, a bond, something real. Ryan had never seen an animal treated with so much respect, so much understanding. He'd grown up seeing horses in movies, in rodeos back home in Texas, but this was different. This wasn't just a rider controlling a horse. This was a partnership. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to look away. He didn't know why, but he felt out of place for the first time in a long time. Ryan turned back to Officer Reynolds, clearing his throat. "Look, man," he started, his voice quieter than usual, "I didn't mean any disrespect. I was just messing around." The guardsman regarded him for a moment, his blue eyes sharp and assessing. "That's the problem," he said finally. "You didn't think. You acted without considering the consequences." Ryan let out a breath, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah," he admitted. "I get that now." Reynolds studied him, then nodded toward Titan. "If you really get it, then you should be apologizing to him." Ryan blinked. "The horse?" The officer didn't flinch. "Yes, you disrespected him. Not me. If you're serious about making amends, you'll show him the respect he deserves." Ryan hesitated, glancing at Titan. The horse was watching him, dark eyes unwavering. It was unsettling, like he was being judged and found lacking. Still, he took a slow step forward, heart pounding for reasons he couldn't explain. Titan didn't move. Ryan lifted a hand, letting the stallion sniff him first, before cautiously resting his palm against the horse's muscular neck. He felt warmth, the steady rise and fall of Titan's breath beneath his fingertips. "I'm sorry, buddy," Ryan murmured, feeling strangely self-conscious. "I didn't mean to upset you." Titan let out a soft snort, not anger, not fear. Something else. Understanding. Ryan exhaled, something shifting inside him. For the first time in years, he wasn't looking for attention. He was looking for something real. The moment Ryan's hand rested on Titan's neck, something changed. He expected the horse to pull away, to ignore him, to prove that one apology wasn't enough to undo his mistake. But Titan didn't move. Instead, he stood still, his muscular frame solid and unwavering, his ears twitching slightly as if acknowledging the words Ryan had spoken. Ryan let out a slow breath. He hadn't realized how tense he was until now. Behind him, Officer Jack Reynolds watched closely, arms crossed over his chest. "You're lucky," he said. "Titan doesn't give his trust easily." Ryan swallowed hard, giving the horse a small, uncertain pat before stepping back. He wasn't sure what he had expected. Some dramatic, movie-worthy moment where everything suddenly made sense? That wasn't how this worked. But still, something was different. For the next few days, Ryan found himself returning to the Horse Guards parade, not as a tourist looking for laughs, but as someone searching for something he couldn't quite name. He kept his distance, watching from the sidelines as the guards tended to their horses. As Titan moved with a grace and discipline Ryan couldn't help but admire. On the third morning, just as he was about to turn and leave, he heard Officer Reynolds' voice behind him. "You keep showing up," Reynolds said, adjusting the polished bridle on Titan's head. "What are you looking for?" Ryan hesitated. He wasn't sure how to answer. "I don't know," he admitted. I guess I never really saw horses like this before. I didn't understand." Reynolds studied him for a long moment before finally nodding. "Then learn," he said. "Be here tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. sharp." Ryan blinked. "Wait, you're serious?" Reynolds smirked. "Dead serious. But let me be clear, this isn't a joke. If you're not willing to put in the work, don't bother showing up." Ryan hesitated for only a second before nodding. "I'll be here." As he walked away, he realized something strange. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't chasing a cheap thrill or a quick laugh. He was chasing respect. And this time, he was willing to earn it. What just happened here wasn't just about a horse or a simple mistake. It was about respect, redemption, and the power of second chances. Ryan thought he was just messing around, but Titan and Officer Reynolds showed him something much bigger. True respect isn't demanded, it's earned. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed your perspective? A time when you realized you were looking at something the wrong way? Maybe you've witnessed an animal show incredible intelligence or loyalty in a way you didn't expect. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. If this story left an impact on you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we have another incredible story coming tomorrow at this exact time. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Turn on notifications so you're the first to see what happens next. And as always, let's keep the conversation going, because sometimes the smallest moments teach us the biggest lessons.